Here is Ben Shapiro, who, I don't know, I guess he felt that there wasn't enough bootlicking on his program at this point. So he decides to sloppily slobber all over the boots of wealthy people, saying that, I mean, laundering some like prosperity gospel nonsense, talking about how the way to cut down on corruption in the United States is to have more wealthy people in office, not less.
But the real campaign issue in Pennsylvania, according to everybody, is...
This is not sped up, by the way.
But the real campaign issue in Pennsylvania, according to everybody, is Dr. Mehmet Oz is an elitist. He's an elitist. And we know that if you earn money in the United States, this makes you unqualified for office. So, sure, the original founders of the country tended to be overwhelmingly wealthy men because, again, the idea here is that if you don't want people in politics who are demagogues, then it's good for them to have an outside source of income. You want to cut down on corruption? It's good for people to be independently wealthy.
Sorry, Emma, I just have to jump in there. Like, the idea that like the original people who all around the country were wealthy is because that's who had the vote. Like,
yeah,
you had to be
property owners, right? Owning white men were allowed to vote,
and so
that is what he is pining for, as like what he wants society to look like now.
Exactly. So this rationale that Ben Shapiro is voicing right now, as if it's like an actual thing that political philosophers think about, and not just like the justification for particularly the slaveocracy from Virginia to get their way and control the government that they use to like make sure that they can continue trafficking slaves and taking indigenous land. Like it's not because of I guess we should just rephrase, when people like Jefferson thought of tyrants, they meant like people who leave slave rebellions and stuff like that. And honestly, that's kind of who Ben Shapiro thinks of as well.
And by the way, and in that vein, these are the limitations of anti-corruption politics, because it allows for someone like Trump or someone like Ben Shapiro to call for alternative, and really there's nothing more American than this. Like he's just, looking to return to a founding idea of who gets to vote and have a say in our society. But it opens the door for right-wing demagogues to say, I am unbossed and unbought because I bought this myself, and I'm the one who's going to save everybody from this. And Trump ran on that in 2016, and Ben Shapiro is just like arguing for it he's a religious theocrat. We know this, but like it is fascinating to see how his lens, it is the same lens with which he views the founding of America, the same just mythologized emotional reaction, and there really is no hard data behind it.
Yeah. This is also a pro-Trump, anti-DeSantis argument that he's making when he's trying to make it about Dr. Oz, but yeah.
Copy and paste it onto the presidential race and we see what we get. Yeah.
Or they are in office. It's not a bad thing. It gives you the ability to say things that are actually on your mind because you have less to lose. This is why, biblically speaking, most of the prophets were actually kind of wealthy, because if you're wealthy, you don't have much to lose. In any case, Dr. Oz has now come under severe fire. Not a biblical prophet, but a candidate for Pennsylvania. Why? Well, because he was...
Sorry, I know but if you're wealthy, that means you have quite a lot to lose, like literally more than others. So that might be why it took a civil war instead of a act of policy to get rid of slavery, for instance. And
why is having nothing to lose or less to lose a benefit in a leader? Like he says that as if it's intrinsic and that everybody should agree with this, but I mean, parse out the logic, man.
What he means to say is like they're disinterested, so their like interests aren't tied up, which again is like ridiculous, and it was ridiculous of the founders. George Washington always had his eye on like Ohio lands and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons why it was easy for him to like relinquish power instead of remaining as a dictator. Like their interests are fundamental to the idea that they're disinterested is a fiction. Like,
well, so is independent wealth. I mean, we
Right.
just had this whole interview on how 21st century capitalism is based on speculative assets. It's based on wealth accumulation through a variety of different methods, but that don't have anything to do with like straight up production or trade. It has to do with speculation. And that requires investment in a variety of different industries. So being modernly wealthy in the 21st century involves having a diverse stock portfolio, which by definition actually makes you more corrupt because you have
Yeah.
more involvement financially in different sectors. He's such an idiot. I mean,
Yeah. Or he's at least like training his audience to be idiots.
right.
If you're wealthy, you don't have much to lose. In any case, Dr. Oz has now come under severe fire. Not a biblical prophet, but a candidate for Pennsylvania. Why? Well, because he was asked about the number of houses that he owns, and he was off. So here was Dr. Oz.
Yeah. So he doesn't play that, but Dr. Oz owns 10 properties and he said he owns 2 homes, right? Or something like that.
He
But
legitimately owns 2, by which he meant like I live in those 2, which is, nice. 2
Yeah.
mansions, by the way.
the
And then he
other
rents
8
the other
I
stuff.
just use for passive income and as a way to inflate my wealth. And so it's not much better, but it is fun to watch some of these right-wing commentators attempt to defend
Yeah.
Dr. Oz. I liked seeing that Tucker Carlson, who sometimes is more savvy than these other guys, and Ben Shapiro tends to be more savvy than some of them as well, getting out ahead of it, saying he's a nice guy, but he's not a good candidate, talking about Dr. Oz. Like, way to distance yourself from this, which,
Yeah.
polls are looking pretty bad for Dr. Oz right now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's that I'd just like to go to Congress and just completely have no sort of conflicts at all, and do things that don't impact, like, say, my investment portfolio.
It just is, again, it is a fantasy world in which some individual who is untethered to society and is independently wealthy somehow without those investments is going to save our country. Like, I mean, we are not dealing in reality when we're talking about those concepts.
Yeah, no, what I want in a politician is someone who's dependent on like a working class base. And that is a dependency that I think is good. I think being independent of a working class base is bad. And that's how you should look at politics, and not as like, oh, this person's got money, so they're a biblical prophet or something.
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, there is a slight truth to it in that, like, I think between DeSantis and Trump, I mean, Trump is more independent because Trump is more of his own man, and DeSantis is just clearly like a political opportunist goon who's mimicking Trump as much as he can. And so, like, yeah, like DeSantis is absolutely going to be less heterodox than Trump is. And I guess in some world that's an argument for Trump over DeSantis. I'm not sure.
I mean, pick your poison.
I hope it's messy, whatever happens.
2 kids in the trench coat. So is Ben saying Pelosi can't be corrupt because she's wealthy?
Yeah, she's above the influence.
I hope Ben Shapiro endorses Michael Bloomberg in the next election cycle too.